your mind is a master of subtle sabotage. It whispers, just a quick break, then we'll dive in. Fast forward to 1:45 a.m. You're sitting in bed with half a bag of stale chips, deeply fascinated by a deep dive essay on why medieval castle staircases were built clockwise. Meet Ren. Ren isn't lacking ambition. He has clear goals: build a successful project, build a strong body, and gain control over his life. But every time he sits down to do the real work, an invisible wall appears. His brain instantly redirects him toward whatever feels harmless and easy. Got a critical deadline? His brain says, actually, this is the perfect moment to organize our entire cloud storage. Need to go hit a workout? His brain replies, wait, let's first clean out the junk drawer in the hallway. We label ourselves as lazy. We hoard self-help books, download new habit apps, and promise that tomorrow will be the day everything changes. But relying on raw motivation is a trap. It gives you a brief spark of hype, forces you to set unrealistic standards, and completely vanishes the moment real friction hits. Your brain isn't defective. It's simply doing its primal job, avoiding pain and seeking safety. However, there is a way to override this system, a blueprint drawn from the Lotus Method and fused with the philosophy of Kintsugi, the art of turning flawed attempts into permanent strength. By the end of this video, you'll have a practical 5-step framework to bypass your brain's defense mechanisms, silence the mental noise, and do hard things without the constant internal war. Let's break down step 1. In ancient Buddhist philosophy, the restless mind is often compared to a wild monkey, jumping endlessly from branch to branch, avoiding discomfort at all costs. The moment you sit down to tackle a difficult task, this monkey panics. It doesn't want you to build that project, study for that exam, or hit a heavy workout. It wants safety and quick dopamine. So it pulls a scam. It whispers rationalizations that sound completely logical. Let's clean our desk first. Let me just check this one notification. We're too tired today. Let's start fresh tomorrow morning. Without awareness, you aren't making a conscious choice. You are simply running an automated script. You become a passive passenger in your own head. Step 1 of the Lotus Method is simple yet revolutionary. Catch the scam in real time. When you feel that sudden magnetic urge to open a new tab, check social media, or invent a fake errand right when hard work is required, pause. Don't judge yourself. Don't get angry. Simply label it out loud or in your mind. Nice try. This is just avoidance. Neuroscience shows that the exact moment you explicitly name a pattern, you shift brain activity away from the emotional, reactive amygdala and activate the prefrontal cortex, the logical decision-making command center of your brain. You immediately strip the illusion away from the urge. You step out of autopilot and take back the steering wheel. You realize that feeling resistance is completely natural, but obeying it is entirely optional. You can't fix a scam you refuse to notice. Once you label the trick, its power over you instantly evaporates. Now that you've caught your brain trying to scam you, your immediate instinct is usually to fight back. You grit your teeth, summon extreme willpower, and try to force yourself through the mental wall. This is where most people fail. Willpower is a limited battery, not an infinite shield. When you rely solely on brute force, every second of work feels like holding a heavy weight overhead. Eventually, your muscles give out and you drop it. Fighting resistance directly creates equal and opposite friction. The more you force it, the harder your brain rebels. In Eastern philosophy, there is a core principle called Wu Wei, the art of effortless action, or flowing like water. Water never tries to smash directly through a solid granite boulder. It doesn't argue with the obstacle. It simply yields, flows around it, finding the path of least resistance until it eventually wears the stone away over time. Step 2 of the Lotus Method is reduce friction to absolute zero. When you feel massive internal resistance toward a task, it's because the initial entry point looks like a terrifying mountain to your brain. And your brain's primal instinct when facing a mountain is to retreat into a safe cave. So, lower the threshold until resistance completely vanishes. Don't promise to write an entire 2,000-word chapter. Commit to opening a blank document and typing a single sentence. Don't commit to an intense hour-long workout. Just put on your shoes and stand on the mat for 2 minutes. By making the entry point absurdly small, you bypass the brain's alarm system entirely. You aren't asking for a massive leap, just a tiny step across the threshold. Once your feet are across that line, the spell of friction breaks. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates flow. Stop fighting the current with brute force. Yield, adapt, and flow around the obstacle. Now you've labeled the scam and lowered the barrier to entry. But as soon as you sit down to execute, a new hurdle appears. Uncomfortable mental silence. Your modern brain is addicted to constant, hyper-fast stimulation. The moment focus requires standing still with your thoughts. Your brain panics. It craves a quick hit of noise, background audio, or a fast check of notifications. That internal friction feels like an intense itch you desperately need to scratch. This brings us to step 3 of the Lotus Method. Embrace stillness. Zazen. In Zen traditions, Zazen is the practice of sitting in complete stillness to let the mental chaos quiet down. Imagine a glass jar filled with muddy water. If you constantly shake the jar, checking your phone, switching tasks, chasing quick dopamine, the water remains dark and chaotic. You can't see through it. But if you set the jar down on a table and leave it in absolute stillness, the mud naturally settles to the bottom. The water becomes crystal clear. When you feel that intense, sudden urge to fidget, break focus, or look away, do nothing. Sit completely motionless for just 30 seconds. Don't fight the feeling, but don't obey it either. Watch the urge rise, reach its peak, and fade away like a wave crashing on the shore. Boredom isn't a flaw. It is the gateway to deep focus. Master the ability to sit through the initial 30 seconds of discomfort, and the mental noise evaporates. The mud settles, and clarity emerges. You have caught the scam, reduced friction to zero, and mastered the first 30 seconds of stillness. Now you have a clean slate. You are no longer reacting to chaos. You are ready to act with pure intention. Step 4 of the Lotus Method is intentional action. To understand this, we look to the ancient art of sumi-e, traditional Japanese ink painting. In sumi-e, the master dips a large brush into black ink, focuses their energy, and creates one decisive, uninterrupted stroke on rice paper. There is no erasing. There is no second guessing. There is no hesitancy. The master is not thinking about the finished picture of a bamboo stalk. They are focusing 100% of their energy on the exact point where the brush meets the paper right now. This is how you must execute your work. You are now single-tasking. Forget about the massive goal. Forget about finishing the video, the code, or the chapter. Focus your consciousness entirely on the current 1 second of execution. If you are typing, focus only on the current word appearing on the screen. If you are reading, focus only on the current line. Treat your focus like that sumi-e brush. Make one smooth, decisive, golden stroke. Then, focus again and make the next one. Don't look ahead at the empty page. Look at the ink right now. Master the moment, and the minutes will master themselves. You are now executing intentional action. But let's be realistic. You will fail. The old monkey mind is persistent. You will check social media. You will forget your stillness. You will fall back into chaotic patterns. This is where most productivity systems break. They demand perfection. When you fail, they label you a lost cause, and you give up. Step 4.5 of the Lotus Method is Kintsugi iteration. Recall the Japanese art of Kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The philosophy is beautiful. We treat breakage and repair as part of the history of an object, rather than something to disguise. The repaired piece is stronger, more unique, and more valuable than the original. Apply this to your mind. When focus breaks, don't ignore the break or hide it in shame. Analyze it. Create a micro-feedback loop. If you got distracted, why? Was your environment too noisy? Did you make the entry point too hard? Once you find the break, repair it with gold. An intentional improvement to your system. Got distracted by phone notifications? Your gold is putting the phone in another room. Got stuck writing? Your gold is reducing the entry point to just one bullet point. A master is not someone who never breaks. A master is someone whose path is made of countless golden repairs. You have completed the loop. You are aware, you reduce friction. You embrace stillness. You act with intention, and you iterate through failure. But now, you face the final boss of the modern mind. Step 5 of the Lotus Method, patience. Bloom. We live in a culture engineered for hyperdopamine and instant gratification. We push a button and food arrives. We swipe a screen and entertainment flashes. So when we build a skill, start a project, or try to rewire our habits, we unconsciously expect the same immediate feedback. We want the result today. If we don't see explosive growth in a week, the old monkey mind panics. It whispers that our efforts are pointless and we abandon the path. This is the ultimate trap, confusing speed with progress. True mastery does not operate on a timeline of minutes or hours. It moves on a timeline of seasons, months, and years. Think back to the lotus flower. It doesn't burst into full bloom overnight. It spends weeks rooted deep down in the dark, silent mud, hidden underneath murky water. To an outside observer, nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, the plant is constantly absorbing nutrients, building strong roots, and reaching upward. It doesn't fight the mud. It uses the mud as fuel. Your daily micro-actions, your quiet focus sessions, your golden Kintsugi repairs. This is your time in the mud. It feels invisible, but it is building the foundation for everything that comes next. Stop standing over your seed, screaming at it to grow faster. A master gardener doesn't force a plant to bloom. They simply focus on providing the optimal conditions every single day: clean soil, steady water, and gentle sunlight. Then, they step back and let time work. You have already optimized your conditions. You have removed the friction. The mud is not your enemy. It is your fuel. Focus entirely on the daily system, trust the process, and keep walking. The bloom is not a gamble. It is an inevitability.